before we start, I know this video is titled Career Chronicles as a social media manager, but the reality is in the social media world, you can be called a lot of different things. You can be a social media specialist, strategist, assistant.
Welcome to Career Chronicles, where we explore and discover different jobs and career paths and unveil insider information to help answer your burning questions.
Social media, fill in the blank here. It can be anything, to be honest. And the thing is, whatever your title is or whatever you're called, you can still perform or you can still be tasked to do things that a social media manager would do or social media assistant will do. It depends on the arrangement you have with your client or how your company or your department or team is set up. And in your career, you might be doing something for one client that you're not actually asked to do for another client or another company. It's pretty normal. And then the term social media manager, or the title itself says manager, but most of the time, really, you're not managing people. There are times when you will be, maybe if you're a social media director or a social media team lead, it depends. But a lot of the time when you're a social media manager, you are actually managing the social media accounts. That's why you're a manager. So just want to get it out there for clarity before we begin. Now, in terms of my background or my experience, I did mention since 2016 when I started working remotely, I was already working in social media in some capacity. It's a whole lot of different tasks actually, but that's how I started. And until now, even if I'm not directly working on social media or handling any accounts, I'm mainly working now on handling or managing YouTube channels. It still falls somehow under the world of social networking. And recently, I also worked with a client on social media. We're not working together anymore. I still manage my own social media accounts for sure. And I haven't done a lot of things in terms of social media, but I can say that I've done most of the things that you need to know. So let's talk about day-to-day overview. It can be quite overwhelming. Like I said, you can be an all-around girl and you can be wearing a lot of hats. So social media managers' day-to-day tasks and responsibilities, it can be a mix of strategy, creativity, analytics, reporting, communication, even customer service. So let me give you an overview, okay? The first thing and very common is content creation and planning. There are some social media managers who do not create content anymore because someone else or another team is creating that for them. But if you're a one-person team, especially in small companies or startups, then you might be doing everything. With content creation, you are the one to develop content calendars. So the calendars will involve like planning posts, what are the themes that you're going to post, or maybe handling campaigns in advance. This is to ensure that you're following consistent messaging or branding. Also, most of the time, you're going to create content. So this can range from writing captions, designing graphics, shoot or edit videos, and maybe curate or make images that align with the brand's voice. Again, in other companies or for some other clients, you do not need to do this, but I'm just going with a general premise, okay? And the next thing is collaboration with teams. So you also work with designers, copywriters, or also influencers to create high quality content. Another very common task or day-to-day thing that you're going to do is platform management. So I mentioned earlier, you are managing social media, right? Not necessarily people. So that includes scheduling and publishing or posting social media posts. When you're scheduling, you might be asked to use tools like Buffer, Hootsuite, or maybe uploading it to the native platform. And when I'm saying native platform, you upload it directly onto Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or whatever the platform is. A big chunk of your day would also actually be for community engagement. So you go into your social media accounts and you respond to comments, you engage the community, you answer their questions in the comment section, just basically keeping the social media presence alive. And sometimes, people send DMs or send you private messages. When people send you messages, or DMs, most of the time it's also going to be your responsibility for the day. You might have also noticed, you as a customer, if you go to a place or you buy something, you would tend to tag a brand, right? Maybe you like it or you don't like it, but a lot of people do that too on social media. So as a social media manager, it's also part of your day-to-day to check these mentions, check these tags. Whoever tagged or mentioned the brand, you have to be on top of that, because you'd want to know how to respond, and you'd want to respond right away, respond promptly, especially if it is a negative experience from a customer. And if it's a positive experience, of course, you'd want to capitalize on that at the moment and then respond right away so that it creates more engagement. Next is, it could be like monitoring trends. This might not be a day-to-day thing for you. It could be a monthly thing or quarterly thing, depends on your client. But basically, during your downtime, it's part of your job to stay updated on changes of the platforms, especially Facebook and Instagram. They tend to change every single time. What was applicable last month may not be applicable this month. So you need to be on top of that. And also, if your brand is into virality or really creating content that tends to go viral, then that's also one thing that you'll have to keep doing every day. You should be on the lookout for what's new, what's viral, so that as a social media manager, you can jump on the trend right away. Analytics and reporting is not so much of a daily task in my experience, but really more on weekly or monthly task. And when I say analytics, you go into the insights of the platform, like on Facebook, and you check how's your subscriber growth, how's your follower growth, what's the engagement like for this post, the likes, the shares, the comments, and things like that. You don't necessarily have to record that on a daily basis, but your client or your manager may ask you to record that or track that on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis for reporting purposes. Now, another thing that you might do, but I really haven't experienced a lot. I did, and I was able to do it a couple of times, but I usually do not have this as part of my responsibilities. Campaign management, in terms of running paid ads. So I tried running paid ads, but I wasn't the lead on it. I wasn't leading the project or the campaign, but you might be. So in your day-to-day, if you're assigned to run campaigns, then you might be tasked to manage the social media results of that, the budget, allocation, constantly changing, targeting, and optimization. Okay, now I realize if you're just watching this for the first time, you haven't watched any single video about social media, that might be super jargon for you, but it's just easy to understand once you're already, in the thick of it, or once you've watched or learned more about it. If you're also working with influencers, that's another thing. I've experienced working with influencers, and every single day you have to acknowledge, engage with them. And if you're working on a project with them, you're also going to serve as the point person. So contact them, communicate with them, tell them what needs to be done, the do's and don'ts of your project, and all that. And sometimes you might actually even create briefs or content briefs for them to follow. There are also tasks such as brand development and then continuous research and development. So as a social media manager, you also somehow lead the way in terms of creating or building a cohesive brand for your clients or for your company. And anything that is off-brand or doesn't follow the values, the things that your company or client set should be replaced or should be changed right away. And in my experience, usually people come to me to ask if it is okay to post this content on social media. And then I tell them that we need to change something. This sound like it's not aligned to the brand voice that we have. So somehow you're also that person. You have to make sure that you're maintaining and building the brand as your client and your company requires you to. Crisis management. Depending on how big the brand is, I guess, you might not encounter a lot of negative feedback or negative reviews. But if you do, like if you handle a bigger brand or a pretty popular brand, this might be a day-to-day thing for you, like scrapping or checking negative reviews and seeing what you can do as a company. It's exhausting, to be honest, but it also is really like a service to customers, because if they provide negative reviews, it means something happened they did not like. So we do what it takes to pacify that customer and turn the situation around. So depending on your policy, that can take a while to resolve, and it can take like pretty much the entire day to resolve. So that's just one of the things, okay? And then some administrative tasks, okay? I do feel like reporting, like adding everything on an Excel file or a Google spreadsheet or wherever can be very administrative to me. It's not something that I like to do every single time because it takes a whole lot of my time, like just putting in all the information in a single spreadsheet or whatnot. You're lucky if you have someone to do that for you, but if you're an all-around person, then that might also take up so much of your time. So that's the part for your day-to-day. It can change again depending on the project, client, or company. How about your skill set? What does it take to be a social media manager? Now, obviously, as I mentioned, you have to be skilled in content creation and copywriting. You will thrive as a social media manager if you're really good in creating content. That means not just creating content or designing on Canva or using ChatGPT or any other AI platform, but really have that creativity, to come up with something innovative or creative to post on your social media channels that will really help engage your customers and will lead them down the funnel so that they become aware of your brand, and they will eventually buy from you, purchase from you, or avail of your service. You also need to understand platform specific requirements because each platform has its own. So Facebook and Instagram, even though they are owned by Meta, they both have like different things going on. So as a social media manager, it's important to understand like what works best on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, or wherever. So practice writing captions for different tones, different platforms, and I highly recommend learning the basics of using tools like Canva. That's like the lowest barrier to entry. It's going to be easier for you to get into the industry if you at least know how to design something. Even if you're not an expert graphic designer, but at least be able to create one graphic of holiday, Merry Christmas, or whatever. That's as simple as it is. When you're starting, of course. A lot of people are using other complex tools, and I mean, good for them. But for you who's starting, I really recommend learning Canva. It can definitely change things and turn situations around. It can even make you an expert. Not saying it's gonna take overnight, but it's definitely possible to just be an expert in design when you keep learning. Another skill that you need to have is for analytics and data interpretation. A lot of social media is metrics, KPIs, or key performance indicators, knowing if this content works or not, how to replace it. And then, you have to look at the data. How are you going to interpret that data so that it informs your next content? Like, oh, if this content is not working, what do I need to change from it so that it works the next time? And how do you know it's not working? Or if it's working, then you look at the data, analytics, and insights. So practice understanding metrics for different social media platforms, or depending on where you want to specialize. If you want to be a Facebook specialist, Instagram, TikTok, it's up to you. Third skill I want to bring up is strategic thinking. Eventually, you will move from being social media manager who does the execution of a lot of things to social media manager who thinks of the strategic side of things. Like, is this entire content campaign going to be helpful, or is this going to make an impact for our business goals? What's this social media campaign going to do for our bottom line? How will this increase our profits or our earnings? So, in the long run, you will need to start thinking about that because that's also where you're able to increase your earning potential, because you understand the business and you're not only creating content and just pushing content out there every single day. You have to be understanding the business as a whole as well. Okay, so perhaps you can study different social media strategies, study the strategies of big brands, and see what made them successful. Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Disneyland, Nike, things like those. Next thing, I'd say you also need to be skilled in spotting trends, because social media is very fleeting. Like what's hyped up today may not be hyped up tomorrow anymore. Some brands would prefer virality over evergreen content, and that's their preference. So there needs to be a balance. And as a social media manager, again, you'll need to be able to spot what's going on in the industry or in your industry, right? And then ride on that so that you get to push your brand out there. And please do it in a responsible way, not just for the purpose of garnering likes or engagement or whatnot, not to the expense of human beings or that hurting other people. So just, be careful with that. Community management is also one skill, like being able to speak to a lot of different people online, speak to them properly about their issues, and really being able to build that community for your brand so that they trust your brand even more. And lastly, you might be involved in paid advertising sooner or later if that's something that you want to pursue. I know that in my case, it wasn't really my plan to be a paid advertising specialist. I would love to if I've gotten a chance to do so. So if this is something that you like, you'd also need to be skilled in creating paid ad campaigns. There are a lot of courses online that you can take, so that you can start learning. You can learn Meta Ads Manager or Google Ads through different certifications. I've personally done Meta Ads, but it's not something that I really like to do. So maybe in the future, we'll see. Now, in terms of education, honestly, there's really no specific educational requirement for this. You can have any major or course that you've had in college and then still proceed to work on social media. But there are relevant degrees that might make the transition easier, such as marketing, communications, like what I had. I was a communication arts graduate, journalism, business, or media studies. So these courses will give you foundational knowledge in marketing and brand management. And I'm sure they're already going to include digital media, including social media, because it's the thing nowadays, right? If you don't have any relevant degree, that's also okay, because you can still get specialized certifications if you like. You have Google Digital Marketing Certification, Meta or Facebook Blueprint, HubSpot Content Marketing Certification. I'm not going to talk about what HubSpot is right now because it can be a very long topic. So go ahead and Google it and you'll find out more. Hootsuite Social Marketing Certification. So Hootsuite is one of the scheduling platforms that most social media managers use, so that you don't have to keep being on your phone posting. You can just schedule stuff for several different days and relax. Now, you're not required to have certifications either. You can have those and they're good to have, but if you don't, it's also fine. You can learn through practical experience, like internships, getting hands-on experience, and even through freelancing, helping smaller businesses with their social media, and maybe even helping your friends or helping your family members do their social media, creating their content, posting for them. It can be a good training ground for you. Aside from that, I feel like being a content creator yourself will help. So not everyone will like that, but it does help. Start your own blog so that you can hone your writing skills. And maybe you can start your own YouTube channel like I did. I have my own blog, I have my own YouTube channel. And those are the things that also helped me be, successful in my social media career or thrive in that industry. Or if that's too much for you, then maybe starting a Facebook page or an Instagram profile will also be beneficial. Now, this part is interesting because what about the job? Like, what is it about it, really? So, here are some unique aspects that you might experience, or you probably already know this before, but you want validation. The first thing is social media management, or being a social media manager is more than just posting. Many people think that the job is just posting pretty pictures, curating an Instagram feed, or posting funny memes. But really, the job of a social media manager will start with, a content strategy and then content planning. And it involves analyzing data, so it involves using your brain, and in some cases, managing budgets. Also, crafting campaigns so that it meets your business goals. Now, you might not be doing all of those, but I can tell you, it's really more than just scheduling posts. It might surprise you that in your role, you will be dealing with a lot of spreadsheets, reports. They're not the sexiest thing ever, but they're part of the job. So yes. And then the next thing that you need to know is the job never really stops. I know that does sound like not very encouraging. Yeah. As you know, social media pretty much operates 24/7. Social media never stops because the world never stops, or at least it's not stopping anytime soon. So there are always trends. There are always crises that need to be addressed, right? So if you're a social media manager, you'll need to be on top of everything. You need to monitor your accounts as much as you can. Now, hopefully you're not being asked to do that 24/7 because that just sucks for you. I can't imagine doing that too. In bigger companies, they will have more than one social media manager who will handle the morning and then the evening. Some will not really mind if you're just active in the morning, you gotta do what you gotta do. But then again, as a social media manager, sometimes it's so hard to, have that kind of boundary, especially if you have your work accounts on your personal phone, like what I did or like what I've experienced before. All of my work profiles are also my personal phone. So while I'm browsing on my very beautiful rest day, something comes up on the work account and then I couldn't stop myself. I really just had to check what was that. Sometimes you may be asked to work on weekends or holidays because it's quite a busy time. But then again, it's really just up to what you want to accept or what you want to tolerate. Another thing is that being a social media manager, you realize that a lot of the things that you do involve experimentation, a lot of trial and error, even experienced social media managers. I've been in the field for a long time, but it's not always easy to predict what's going to work or, which content will hit, which content will flop. It depends. Your success will often involve testing, experimenting. And a lot of those, along the way, you'll always fail. There's always a chance to fail, but it's a good thing that you catch that early on so that you can work on it right away. So what you do is just you really optimize from the knowledge that you've had from that failure. And even campaigns that were planned rigorously, meticulously, there's always something that could go wrong, or what you expected to be viral may not actually go viral. And it can be heartbreaking, but don't worry, it's part of the job. You'll get through it. Next thing, you can expect being emotionally overwhelmed because you're handling community management, online communities. These people you probably don't ever see in your day-to-day or will not ever see ever in your lifetime, right? But you'll have to manage the online comments. You'll have to pacify these customers, and these messages can expose you to negativity, trolling, or even personal attacks. So there's always a mental load of handling all these toxic comments or harmful comments. If that particular brand you're handling sucks at making their customers happy, then it's not going to be a good news for you every day, right? I've had my fair share of that, to be honest, and I dreaded every single time I'd go online and see the comments and then think of like, what am I gonna say to these people? Especially if your management is not doing anything about it. You're the front liner and you're the one addressing these people. You don't know what to do. So, just something that really happens. Next is that there's always like the pressure to perform. As a social media manager, even though you are not in control of everything, somehow management, higher ups, your bosses, managers will always look at how you're performing. Even though in some cases you just feel like it's beyond your control. Just imagine you spent so many hours, so many days working on a campaign, but the results are not very positive, the results are underwhelming, then it reflects on you somehow, even though you know that it's a lot of the things that are there are beyond your control. But then again, it all leads you back to the preparation, right? Like, what are the things that you did during your preparation that you overlooked, and then optimize around that. Again, it's always trial and error until you get the right mix. Do take note that demand, of always trying to keep up with everything, always being expected to perform, and always having that pressure to increase engagement, increase subscribers, increase followers, that can take a toll on your mental health, and it can be intense. So do take time to breathe and think that this is something that you can work on in the future. Hopefully your managers think that too, because there are some who can be really bitchy about it, and you can understand them somehow, because they also get the pressure from their clients or from anyone up there who's pressuring them. And last but not the least, for the unique things that you'll experience is the burnout, creative burnout, which I've experienced several times. There are several times when I would just look at my computer and like, I don't know what to design. I don't know what to write about. I don't know what to create. I'm sure like if it's just a simple scheduling of the post and the content is already there, it's going to be super simple. But thinking about the strategy and the planning itself, it takes so much time. And not a lot of people appreciate the work that happens behind the scenes, because they only see that viral meme, they only see the successful post, and worse, they only see that post that nobody liked or nobody engaged with, and then it all comes down to you. And I know it sucks, like you don't always see the ROI on the content that you're creating. It's not always visible. That's why for some social media managers, it might be discouraging, but then again, it can be fulfilling when you know that you've done a good job after all, even if there are some pitfalls or challenges along the way. Now for the steps, how to become a social media manager. Of course, first you'll have to understand what the role entails. What do they really do? Which I think you're doing now because you're watching this video. And make sure you familiarize yourself with the different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything. And maybe at one point or another you decide to be specialized in one platform. That's also fine. But when you're starting, it's really nice to be adept or to be knowledgeable, at least knowledgeable, not an expert right away, at least knowledgeable in all of the platforms, because most companies, they tend to really take advantage of all the platforms. And then start building relevant skills. The one that I mentioned earlier in this video, like content creation, analytics, strategic planning, community management. Learn the tools. Like there are social media schedulers, Hootsuite, Buffer, or Later, and then analytics on Facebook and on Google. Design and editing softwares, if your job would even include video editing, which I think is too much. Canva, Photoshop, CapCut, whatever is out in the market right now. And if you want to take it even further, you can watch or take several online courses on Coursera, Udemy, or even LinkedIn Learning. Then the next step I highly suggest is to build a strong online presence. I have a series about that, like how you can build your career digitally. I'm going to link the series up here so that you can check it out. I think it's very helpful because nowadays clients or employers would always like find time to look at your online portfolio, because that's the way it is. That's the world right now. So if you already have a strong online presence, to give you an example, I have established this YouTube channel several years ago, and I also have my own Facebook page. I run Instagram. I also handle several accounts of different clients back in my social media days. I mean, I'm still on social media now, but not professionally at the moment. And it really helped me become an authority, or at least credible in my field, because they're seeing this experience that I'm doing this on my own, and I was able to grow and build my own platforms or social media channels. Therefore, those skills that I used to build my own platforms are going to be transferable to them. Even if it's a different industry, the skills are always transferable. So go ahead, build your own personal brand, create content for your audience, like whatever you want to create on. Could be your love for travel, for shopping, makeup, it depends. Just start creating and then build that up as part of your portfolio. Not only the ones that you do for yourself, but the ones that maybe you do for your friends or your family or smaller businesses, so that when the time comes that you're ready to apply, you have something to show your clients. Make sure that you are also updated with trends and changes in the social media world. I think that will really help you gain a job in the social media industry as well. Now, once you have all of those, and I don't mean like finish all of those at one time before you start submitting applications. You can definitely start submitting, but be honest about your experience, okay? Don't tell clients or employers that you are the best at doing this and that, but you just started. Okay, sometimes people will say, fake it till you make it and just figure it out in the job. Well, my personal take is that can be a bit dangerous in a sense, because you can honestly get fired by just not knowing what you're doing that you claim to know you can do during your job application. So just be mindful of that. And then make sure to network actively. Look at Facebook, LinkedIn, even Instagram. There are a lot of creatives looking for support and help over there. So maybe you can, submit your portfolio or your resume and build connection. And then once you already have the experience, you will have to continuously improve that experience and maybe specialize your skills in the future or upskill. So for example, if right now you're doing basic content creation using Canva or writing captions on Facebook or on Instagram, then you can specialize to something like creating a monthly content plan with all the themes and everything, and then eventually move on to reporting or data analytics, content management. So it's really up to you how you'd want your career to be like, but the general premise is pretty much like that. Okay, now for the future of the industry or the trends, there are platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube that have short form content. So capitalize on that and learn how to do like short form videos. It has so much impact, especially nowadays that a lot of people have shorter attention spans, and it's an opportunity for you to create fast-paced content. Next is AI-driven tools. So you have to learn about tools like ChatGPT, Jasper, for content creation, captions, and a whole lot of other tools for visual production. There is a lot of talk, probably that you've heard about, with AI replacing your job and whatnot. We still don't know exactly what can happen. All we have are predictions that maybe a lot of the aspects of your job will be replaced by AI, or maybe not. Maybe there are companies or employers that prefer the human touch and really work with humans all the time. So use these tools as your supplementary tools to assist you or aid you in the job that you're doing. And make sure that you know how to use the tools, but not let it override your skills as a human being. You know what I mean? So don't be scared about that. Just continue upskilling. Another trend that we're seeing, social e-commerce or social commerce integration. You do already see shops on TikTok, on Instagram, where shoppers or consumers can just shop there and then check out right away from the social media platforms. That's also kind of big nowadays, so you might want to learn that too, like live stream shopping, shoppable posts. There are a lot of creative ways to be in that market or in that industry. So if that's kind of your thing, then go ahead. There are still a lot more for sure, but I give that to you as an assignment because this will not fit in this entire video. And then the last segment of this Career Chronicle series, advice for you, aspiring social media managers. All right, just start now. Start managing your own social media accounts or profiles now, or maybe volunteer for small businesses or nonprofits so that, again, you gain practical experience. It teaches more than the theory itself, and it's exciting what you can do for that brand or for that community. Always stay curious. Ask around, like, what are the new things that you can learn about social media? And I also suggest you master, or at least, start being knowledgeable with analytics and insights. Like, how do you read data? Because eventually you will have to do that. You'll have to report whether what you're doing is working or not, because that's kind of like how you prove that your content or your plan is working. And that's what, stakeholders, clients, and employers will look for. Now, last but not the least that I'd want to share is you have to start learning to write well. I know that it's not going to take overnight, or it's not going to take you a day or two even, but I really feel personally that if you know how to write well, you will have a greater chance of, getting these jobs. It's a basic thing to do, but it's also a basic, expectation from people who work in content and social media. If you don't know how to write for a specific audience, you will not be able to get your message across, and it's hard to be relatable. It's hard to resonate, right? I know there are tools like ChatGPT or Gemini that can help you write content or create copy, but it's still different if it's coming from your brain or it's like your creativity coming through in your posts. Besides, ChatGPT captions and copies are very obviously AI generated. So if you're creative enough and you know how to write, I strongly believe, you can thrive. Okay, now the very, 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 very last thing is compensation, or how much you're actually going to earn from this. That's a very tricky question because it is different for each industry, each level of expertise, or each person really. I don't think there's a standard rate for every social media manager. Some companies are very generous. Some companies, like smaller businesses that do not have really big budgets for marketing, might not be able to pay you enough. So I guess I'd leave it up to you to do your own research and see which industries or which types of social media tasks would work best for you. And something that might not pay higher or bigger will probably be less stressful than the ones that pay more. With social media managers, the sky is the limit. You can be paid 6 digits, or you can be paid as low as peanuts or nothing. So there you have it, becoming a social media manager. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them below and I will answer them. This has been a very long video and my voice is like, I cannot take it anymore, but I'm so happy I created this video for you. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you on the next video, which I don't know when. See you, bye.